Do you believe in love at first sight? Of course not. Only stupid bitches with too much free time believe this shit. They read romance novels and watch stupid romance movies, dreaming of that one guy who will make their skin tingle just by smiling. They may be single, having not found the one, or married to a guy they settled on because he's nice and has a decent job. No matter who these women are or what their situation is, this concept of love at first sight makes them vulnerable to the wolves preying on the cute little sheep. This belief that there is that one man who you will instantly love if you ever meet him is the perfect lure for fishermen like me. Have you ever noticed that love at first sight only happens to attractive people? Romance novel covers usually feature a shirtless guy with long flowing blonde hair and the muscles of a Greek god. His big, strong arms are wrapped around a woman who probably looks like Heather Graham or Reese Witherspoon. Have you ever seen a couple like Roseanne and Dan on the cover? Movies are no better. A woman usually finds her true love in a dark, handsome actor who most women would fuck in the middle of Times Square at noon. Even in the teen movies that try to teach that true love is not physical, there is a nerdy girl who is actually sizzling hot and wears glasses and a ponytail. Halfway through the film, she takes off her glasses and lets down her ponytail. Only then does she realize that she is truly beautiful. Everyone talks about her inner beauty. But isn't it funny that she has to be beautiful on the outside to be accepted? Billions of people live on this planet. If I had to take a wild guess, I'd estimate that about 30% of them are probably considered attractive. By good looks, I mean an average to decent body with a moderately attractive face. I would also guess that only 10% of the population is beautiful. You see them in Hollywood and on posters in little boys' and girls' bedrooms, or hidden discreetly in your dad's porn stash. You may even see some of them at the gym. Even though they make up only a small percentage of our population, everyone associates this kind of love with them. No one thinks of a short, balding 40-year-old man or an obese 50-year-old woman as potential candidates for love at first sight. According to these unconfirmed assumptions, all this leaves a whopping 60% of the world's population without ever falling in love at first sight. So, if love is blind, then why is most of the planet excluded from potential? Of course, love at first sight is more than that. You see, we as humans are fundamentally selfish. Whenever we are faced with a situation, our first thought is always how this situation affects us and how it makes us feel. We may have a thought about how we influence a situation, but usually this thought is distant or even delayed. So, the love at first sight mindset usually focuses on how the person we are in love with makes us feel. We rarely care about how we make them feel. With this in mind, the concept of love at first sight comes with the hope that our perfect person, who fulfills all our fantasies and desires, will ignore all our imperfections. If you ask 10 people what their dream person is, I guarantee that 8 of them will describe some variation of the same person. Let me give you an example. From my point of view, if a woman were to describe her dream guy, he would be tall, thin, have a relatively good job, funny, kind, and caring. He would be a sensitive guy, but mentally strong enough to take control when she wants to give him up. Did you guess right? I bet I've described 90% of women's ideal guys. Have you noticed that none of these qualities even affect how he treats her or how he feels about her? All these qualities have nothing to do with how he makes her feel. So, to be the perfect guy, half of it comes down to genetics. You may be a piece of shit otherwise, but if you lack the physical attributes of a piece of crap, then you'll be the one she settles for. Hey, don't be mad at me. I'm just telling it like it is. If a guy with good genes can pretend to be such a less-than-shitty guy, he'll likely outperform the poor schmuck who's actually a great guy, but not so blessed in the looks department. This is where I come in, ladies and gentlemen. You see, physically, I am that guy. I am 1 meter 90 tall, 88 kilograms of a clean, pumped-up male body, and my smile can melt the heart of a nun. Am I vain? You might say yes. But damn, if you fucked as many bitches as I did, you'd be the same. Now, good looks alone are not enough. Don't let locker room talk and rumors fool you. I have yet to get the attention of a woman, which I got by simply flashing a smile and flexing my pecs. I realize that in order to achieve high levels of success, you need to be more than that, or you will have to manifest something else. Despite the stories you read on these sites, women rarely want a man who is only good for sex. We just believe it because it's a masculine trait. We might meet a woman who looks like sex on a stick, but is dumber than a box of rocks and ruins our marriages because of her. We all know this is true. Women are different. Even if they're only looking for a sex buddy, they want more than just sex with him. They usually follow a man they might fall in love with, but they lie to themselves and say that they are following just to scratch an itch. That's why I learned the subtle art of the love-at-first-sight weapon. The most useful targets between the sheets are not the girls with the least resistance. What fun is it to drive a Ferrari that costs only $5,000 and has over 200,000 miles on it? Of course, we will ride this one, but we won't feel anything special. No, the most useful targets are those who buy into this ridiculous theory, those who will only let themselves go if they find him. They are like an untapped well of erotic passion waiting to be discovered. When they find the man of their dreams, all those stupid inhibitions accumulated over years of preaching and parental warnings disappear. By dealing with him, all the nasty shit they really want to do but don't will seem less taboo. Secretly, fantasizing about it, they use his face and body as support. He can make them do anything. With him, she will feel like the girl she always wanted to be. When he does all these obscene things, everything will be exactly like in her fantasy. For example, a rape fantasy is only sexy when the guy in it looks like Antonio Banderas. If the guy looks like Jim Belushi, it's just rape. This fact remains true for most women, even married ones. No, let me rephrase. Especially married people. You see, most women are not married to the guy of their dreams. They marry a pale copy of him. He may have some of the primary qualities, but not all. They fall in love with him and settle for a life of mediocrity. They are content with having the best they could get. Then they meet me. There are a few rules to remember when seducing one of these naive bitches. They must be made to believe this myth. They want to believe in him. They will meet you halfway. All you need to do is give them an unspoken promise that you are the guy they dream about. You have the inner qualities that a good guy should have, and you're wrapped up in a nicer package than what they have at home. If you give it to them, they will fill in the blanks themselves and make themselves believe the lie. First, the key is patience. These women believe that true love can wait until they overcome their sanctimonious upbringings. You can't rush them into sex. In fact, you have to be a little reluctant to take this step. Let them think that they are actually seducing you. Second, always look them in the eye. In fact, make sure you know their color. Sure, you can appreciate her body, but make it a secondary consideration. You can tell that a woman has nice breasts, and she might let you fuck them. If you say she has great eyes, she will fuck you. Third, find out what her insecurities are. It may take some light probing, but the results will be worth it. When you find out what her insecurities are, turn a blind eye and act like they don't exist. For example, if she's insecure about her weight, tell her how beautiful she looks in that dress. If she mentions the folds of fat around her waist, then you are saying that skinny girls are unattractive because there is nothing to hold them up to. If she has small breasts, tell her that large breasts are too much to handle. Besides, you are still the kind of man who likes ass. The fourth relates to number 3. Find out what she is proud of and praise her for it. If she's a smart chick, tell her you can listen to her talk about books and shit for hours. If she's lost a few pounds, tell her how beautiful she used to be, but now you have to constantly remind yourself that she's married. If she has her hair done, tell her that it really frames her face and makes her look like an angel. Fifth, make sure you have vulnerability too. Of course you can make it up. Make it seem like you've never told anyone about this, and you won't believe how comfortable you'll become with her. The one I use is that my mom is crying because my dad left her. I talk about how this affected me at a young age and made me never want to do this to any woman. Stupid bitches eat this. Sixth, Never, under any circumstances, throw mud at her husband. This is where most guys screw up. They tried to convince the wife that they were better than what she had at home. This is a mistake. First of all, it is difficult for you to fight on this field. He's already got the upper hand. She already knows his good qualities. Unless the guy is a complete loser, you'll crash and burn this way. I choose a different path. It takes longer, but it works. If she has sex with a guy who bad-mouths her husband, it will be one time, and she will regret it. She will be so burdened with guilt that she will run back to him and try to become the perfect wife. I am the one she will start an affair with. She won't feel guilty having sex with me. By the time I'm done with her, she'll feel like she deserves it. I never say anything bad about her asshole hubby. In fact, I compliment it. I take his side. I give her advice on how to make their marriage better. I always come to his defense when she scolds him. Then, as she tells me all the things that are missing in her marriage, I give her tips about what would work if I were him. I casually mention that I wish I had a woman. Who would do all this for me? This brings them closer to me because we have something in common. At the same time, I am planting a seed in her mind to do these things for me. At the end, I always say something like, I can't imagine any guy not noticing this. It must be dead to avoid becoming hard. Number 6 is the most important. This is where you drive a wedge between her and her husband and insert yourself. And that's why. If you've gotten this far with her, she's very vulnerable. There is something missing in her marriage, even if she doesn't realize it. Whatever she lacks, you become it. If he doesn't listen to her, then you listen with all your ears, even if this bitch is boring. If he doesn't pay attention to her, you do. By not bad-mouthing your husband, you make her feel like you truly care about her happiness and that you have her best interests at heart. You don't pose any threat. Most likely, it's her asshole husband who isn't going to change no matter what you tell her. If she stayed with him for this long, then he stood his ground. Once she becomes what she lacks, she will see his failure and begin to wish he would be more like you. Now he will be in a losing situation. If he comes to his senses, she will be grateful to you, but his attention will be temporary, and she will definitely return. If he fails, she will begin to look at you as the guy she would like for her husband. The best thing is that if he notices what you are doing and complains about you, she will defend you by saying that you never said a bad word about him. You will always be the good guy, and he will be the irrational jerk. You can even voluntarily step away for a while so she can work on her relationship. At the end of the day, if being friends with you hurts her, you care about her enough to let her go. That's the trick. Eventually, you will run out of advice and say, I wish there was a way I could help you. If only he could see you the way I see you. If she doesn't spread her wings after that, then you're probably better off moving on to another target. So, there are exceptions to every rule. Even with all these weapons at my disposal, I can't kill them all. Sometimes life gets in the way. Unforeseen variables that I didn't plan for can pop up and ruin all my hard work. Shit happens. Take that bitch I worked with. Oh, wait a minute. You don't know who I am yet. Well, let me introduce myself, and then I'll tell you about this bitch and her weakling husband. My name is Brian Kelfar. When I was 18, I joined the Navy. I would have entered earlier, but I was underage. Leaving this house for this was the best decision I ever made. One way or another, I became a naval orderly. I requested an assignment to a Marine unit that needed a medic. When it came, I became a Navy brat. The term simply means that I was a Navy guy doing all the shit that Marines do. I must say that I enjoyed it more than duty ashore at the Naval Hospital. The differences between the Navy and Marines begin when you enlist, thus, joining the Navy, becoming a Marine. Hooray! Anyway, I served 8 years and was honorably discharged as an E5 Hospital Corpsman 2nd Class. I won't list all the bonuses I received because most of them are not important. I was able to take some courses when I went to college and graduated with an RN, registered nurse, degree. I trained daily, 5 times a week. I got used to doing this when I was in my unit. I have a 6-pack on my stomach and I jog all the time. Working out in a hospital is easy because there are a couple of gyms there that are used for the rehabilitation of some patients. Because I served in the Navy, people automatically give me respect. Women always secretly wonder if I killed someone, and guys always want to hear some war stories. I don't know why people are so passionate about what's going on there. Half of them wouldn't have the courage to deal with the shit that's going on, so they live vicariously through one of my stories. Then they give me this empty, "thank you for your service," and continue to discuss whichever team they like. Most of the stories I tell are true. Sometimes I have to give some stories a Hollywood twist. They're not really happy with the truth, but for the most part, I don't lie. Yes, boys and girls, I am the guy that most husbands argue about with their wives, and the guy that most wives gossip about with their girlfriends. I am a nightmare for a jealous husband and a wet dream for an abandoned wife. Now let's get back to the bitch that got off the hook. Her name is Selena Holmes. She's in her 30s and hotter than a jet engine. She has a nice, slim little body and keeps herself in shape. I first noticed her while working out at the gym when she was on the treadmill. Her shoulder-length brown hair was pulled back into a ponytail that bounced from side to side as she ran. I don't know what it is about a running girl bouncing a ponytail, but it's my kryptonite. Her green eyes were glued to the TV screen. Her soft lips spoke the words to the song she was listening to on her iPod. She was breathtaking. I immediately realized that I wanted to fuck her. No, I have to fuck her. And I started my campaign. I started striking up conversations with her while working, asking her opinion on things so I could get close enough to let her touch me. I even bumped into her and caught her before she hit the floor. I wanted to have as much physical contact with her as possible. The problem I had was that it wasn't vulnerable. No matter what I did, I could never get her to talk about anything other than work. I couldn't get her to talk about her personal life. She seemed content and happy. Bitches, happy with their life at home, rarely talk about it. Who the hell wants to hear how wonderful someone's marriage is? People only talk about gossip because everyone wants to know what's wrong in others' lives. The other problem was that she seemed immune to my good looks. She was always nice and professional, but didn't give me the vibe I get from ripe fruit. She didn't look at me long enough for me to see that she was interested. She didn't touch me when we were standing close, talking. When we needed to talk, she said what she had to say and then moved on to the next task. I started having sex with another nurse who was always with her named Wilma. Wilma is quite pretty, but older than us. She is not fat, but her round face gave away that she was plump. She has nice breasts, and she's probably hiding a round ass under that jumpsuit. She has red, curly hair and a face strewn with freckles. She looks like a wet rag in bed. But I quickly realized that she is one of those untapped wells. It's like she has all this repressed sexuality just waiting to come out. I found out that her husband is a loser who watches Asian porn instead of caring about his business. This guy must be the dumbest son of a bitch on earth because his wife is a classy woman. She's just ripe for the taking. She was so starved for attention that I didn't have to use most of the tricks to get her. It's just that one day, I told her that the medical suit looked like something out of the pages of Victoria's Secret magazine, and she practically raped me in one of the bathrooms. Her husband himself doesn't know what he's missing. Time passed, and I almost stopped thinking about Selena. She didn't take the bait. Besides, Wilma and a couple of other nurses completely satisfied me. I was just about to throw in the towel when I received a blessing from the sex gods. That blessing came in the form of Doug. Doug was one of our longtime patients. He was involved in a car accident, which left him in a coma for 3 weeks. When he came to, he had the mental capacity of a 5-year-old child. Doug is as tall as me, but about twice my build. He is somewhat reminiscent of Steve Austin, nicknamed Block of Ice, but not as muscular. In short, Doug is a big dude. He is usually affectionate and meek with all the staff. He never raises his voice, never quarrels, and is completely gentle. He always listens and thanks for every little thing that is done for him. But Doug is like those lions that are kept in captivity. After years of feeding them steaks and playing with them, you forget that these cats are wild animals. One day, Doug got horny. I don't know what enraged him, but he felt a kind of burning sensation. After all, he is still a man. So Selena entered the room to give him some pills and found that he was self-pleasuring himself. He didn't even try to hide it. He took one look at Selena's tight little body and lunged at her. I heard a scream and ran into the room and saw Doug trying to pull her belt off. She grabbed him with one hand, trying to maintain her modesty, while her other hand tried to keep him at a distance. I managed to pull Doug away from her. Unfortunately for me, this big oaf pounced on me and started throwing me all over the room. I didn't want to hurt the poor guy, but I almost knocked the hell out of him. Fortunately, Selena was able to give him a happiness injection that sent him to the land of sleep. She was so shocked that I took her to the cafeteria for coffee. She was extremely grateful to me because, trying to come to her aid, I was beaten. Naturally, the conversation led to my service in the Marine Corps, which allowed me to open the door a crack to learn about her. She didn't say anything, but I was already standing at the door. This was the start of many conversations. Selena hasn't been as open about her family woes as I would have liked. She never directly said anything that would help me establish myself in her mind, but without realizing it, she was giving me clues. However, I had to pay close attention to them. I got the feeling that she didn't feel sexy around her husband. It was just a small guess, but it was all I had. I started working on it, and he started by complimenting her on her overalls. Whenever she did her hair a little differently, I would let her know I noticed it. I asked what perfume she used and remembered. I still couldn't do anything about it. She was kind with all the attention, but it didn't move her. The problem was that she already knew all this about herself. Praising her was like saying that the hospital was full of sick people. She smiled back slightly and left it at that. The good guy routine was falling apart. I had no choice until one day I approached her from the other side. We had a break, and we sat in the living room. I don't know what came over me, but I just blurted out, "You act like a professional, but I bet when the lights go out you're crazy." She looked at me with a cheerful grin and said, "What do you want to check?" Finally, I succeeded. That was my point of view. Now this bitch is mine. So the game began. I flirted with her shamelessly. She paid with the same coin. It became a game of who was the smartest of us, and it was fun. While this was fun, it also became frustrating. My progress seemed to be stuck at this stage of flirting. Months passed, and I was no closer to finalizing the deal with her. Every time I tried to speed things up and translate them into the physical plane, she pushed me away. But at the same time, she kept the door open just enough for me to continue flirting with her. Let me give you an example. One day, we both found ourselves in a closet. She was trying to get a box from the top shelf. She stretched and left her tense body unprotected. She was having trouble with the box, so I offered to help her. I came very close to her and snatched the box from her hands. At the same time, he pressed his whole body against her. I got excited and made her feel it. She turned around so quickly that she collided with me. She put her hand on my chest and pushed me away. She didn't push me too much, but she pushed me nonetheless, so that she created some space between us. Then she said, "At ease, soldier. I need you to hold your things." I looked into her eyes and said, "I have to always keep my gun ready because I never know when I'll need it." She looked at me with her cheerful eyes and said, "Well, in the closet with me, you'll never be able to use it." Then she snatched the box from me and left. Now I was confused. Did she mean that there was no way I could use it with her? Or that the closet was the wrong place? Another time I told her I would make her beg for it, and those cheerful eyes flashed again when she answered, "Believe me, if you make me beg for it, you'll find out what a maniac I really am. But to your regret, I won't beg." Then she shrugged and walked away. Now that was an invitation if I ever heard one, isn't it? I found myself obsessed with her. I analyzed every conversation I had with her, trying to determine if this was a step forward or even more. I saw her walking down the halls and tried to get her to notice me. She never initiated our flirting, but she always responded with such a cheerful expression that it drove me crazy. I realized that I had fallen madly in love with her. I was desperate. It wasn't that I wasn't having sex. I still had sex with a lot of ladies. I just didn't fuck her. She became my Moby Dick. I invited her to come to my apartment many times. She always answered the same way. She laughed it off and playfully refused, but didn't say it like she'd never do it. One day I wanted her so much that I could taste her. We finished our shift and headed to our cars. I tried in every possible way to lure her to me, knowing that if I just bought her there, the houses and walls would help. If only I could get her there. She just lightly touched my face, got into the car, and drove away. It's that simple. I stood in that parking lot excited. I could still feel her hand on my face. I wrote to her. This was a last-ditch attempt. Me. You should drop by my apartment today. She. I can't. Why me? She. Because my husband will wonder where I am? Me. Come up with an excuse. She. Why should I risk getting into trouble? For what? Me. For the best sex you've ever had. She. You're too self-confident. I think this is empty talk. Me. There's only one way to find out. I waited for a reply message, but never received one. I groaned, dejectedly got into the car and drove home. I tried to do everything not to think about her. I could have invited another woman to relieve the tension, but I didn't want to. Have you ever had one of those moments when you want something so specific that nothing else can satisfy? It's like waking up in the morning and tasting pancakes. Maybe you dreamed about pancakes, so you go down to the kitchen only to find that all the pancake mix is gone. You can probably make eggs and toast, but you want pancakes so badly that you can't do anything else. That's how I felt. And then one thought came to my mind. It was like a Hail Mary. I need to do something. I took a photo of my instrument in full combat readiness and sent a message to Selena. The minutes turned into hours. I never received a reply message. I checked the SMS to make sure it was delivered. She may not have checked her phone yet. I was almost tempted to call her, but decided against it. What if her husband answers the phone? It won't be pleasant. The next morning, I woke up more upset than ever. I was also disappointed in myself. What the hell am I doing? I should have moved on to another woman months ago. If I didn't know her, I could swear that she was deliberately leading me by the nose. Marvelous. No, bitches aren't that smart. I know there are some who like to tease guys, but no woman has ever done this to me. I'm not the guy they can screw up and leave. I am the prize. I'm a largemouth bass, not some minnow. I'm the one women take pictures with and brag to their girlfriends, telling overblown stories about how I almost broke their line of defense. She wants the same thing as me. I know it. I just need to plan the ideal situation that will eliminate all the usual distractions. If only I had brought her to my place last night. I have to come up with a plan. This crap of acting on circumstances drove me to despair. But I had no idea how to get her to a place that would remove all her excuses. She wasn't the kind of woman who would give me a quickie in the bathroom or closet. I had to try to somehow lure her to me. But that's the rub. I couldn't bring her here after work. She was afraid that her weak husband would recognize her. I didn't have enough time to do this during lunch. We barely had enough to stand in line at the cafeteria. I'll have to convince her to take the day off. That way I'll have the whole day to work on it without fear of hubby getting suspicious. I will express this idea to her when I see her. I'll talk to her about going out for the day with me. That way we could hang out as friends. Having rid her of these work clothes, I was sure that my magnetism would work. Unfortunately, fate is a nasty bitch. She didn't come to work that day. I was planning this whole monologue about what we should do and how we should do it, and this bitch said she was sick. Not only were my plans put on hold, but I also had to care for her patients, since we couldn't get a temporary nurse from the agency on such short notice. Crap. I wonder how she felt when she saw my instrument. I bet she was horny. Now that she knows what I have, she should agree to spend the day with me. I didn't have a chance to write to her until I went to lunch. I was so busy tending to our patients. I wrote to her 4 times and received no response. As I walked back to my floor, I had a bad feeling about my chances with Selena. Until now, we have corresponded quite regularly. It can't be a coincidence that she stopped writing to me the very next day after I sent her a photo of my instrument. Something went wrong. I wonder if she told her husband. No, she would never do something like that. With this, she will blame herself. There must be another explanation. And then it dawned on me. She was ashamed of how it turned her on. Last night, she must have had sex with her husband, seeing me in her dreams, and it scared her. This must be the case. I'll have to tread carefully to make her feel comfortable with her feelings. I can be patient. Meanwhile, I persuaded Wilma to go into the pantry. She hardly resisted. In fact, the only reason it almost happened was because she needed to answer the phone. As soon as she finished with him, she met me in the closet, ready for sex. We did this for 10 minutes, and I made her finish twice. I've never known another woman who did it as easily as Wilma. I walked out of the closet with a smile on my face. While the fuss was good, my thoughts went back to Selena. I wanted Selena to become just as submissive. Miss My Shit Don't Stink will never let me talk her into doing the shit Wilma does. I wonder how far I can take Wilma. I finished the rest of my shift with almost no problems. That evening, in the parking lot, we again had sex in the back seat of Wilma's car. When I got home, I texted Selena again. That's when I realized that everything was no longer the same. She changed her number. Crap! When she finally came to work, she almost walked right through me. It was as if I wasn't there. If I entered the room, she left. If I tried to talk to her, she would turn and start talking to someone else. I thought it might thaw over the next 2 weeks, but I was wrong. The tension between us became so strong that it became difficult to breathe when we were both in the same room. When she had to talk to me, she rarely spoke a sentence containing more than 5 words. Our flirting stopped completely. I could only guess that for some reason she was angry with me. What the hell did I do? I had to find out. I waited until she went into the closet and pushed her in, closing the door behind me. She turned to face me, but didn't say a word. Instead, she silently looked at me as if I had shitted her porridge. Did I do something wrong? I asked as sincerely as I could. I decided that right now I needed to be Brian the good guy, and not Brian the seducer. I even gave her my best puppy face. She didn't thaw. In fact, she just stood there and looked at me with eyes full of amusement. I need to get back to work, Brian, she said in a carefree, monotone voice. Then she brushed past me, opened the door, and left me completely confused. I tried to engage her in conversation, but the bitch just kept walking around me and ignoring me. I was already starting to get angry. Luckily, I managed to persuade Wilma to satisfy me in one of the bathrooms. I left, but my heart did not calm down. Wilma noticed this. What happened, baby? She asked me in an anxious voice, the voice of a friend. She touched my cheek tenderly. I think she was trying to console me, but it had the opposite effect. These were signs that our playtime was coming to an end. The point was that it was time for us to talk and part ways. I had to put it aside for a minute because I needed it. I decided I could use her to find out what was going on with Selena. Sorry, Freckle. That's what I called her. She loves that shit. I'm just a little confused. Haven't you noticed that Selena treats me like I'm leprous? I tried to talk to her, but she always turns me off. I watched as Wilma's face darkened with jealousy at the mention of Selena. For a few seconds, her eyes locked onto mine. That's when I knew it was time to end this crap with her. Why do you care whether Selena is mad at you or not? She screamed so lewdly that the walls echoed. I realized that we could be heard outside the bathroom and began anti-crisis measures. I had to calm this fickle bitch down. Freckles, calm down. I just want to understand what I did to her. We have to work together, and it's hard when she ignores me. You have no reason to be jealous of Selena. You are the only one who receives love from me. I conveniently omitted the words, on this floor, although it was implied. Her face lit up, and she kissed me on the lips. I'll find out, baby, she said with a wink. With these words, she left the bathroom. I don't know what Wilma said to Selena, but I thought I hit the jackpot when I saw her waiting for me in my car. I smiled to myself, as if casually heading there, and I thought my car couldn't look any better. Now I know that she's not even close to as hot as when you're standing next to her. I gave her my flirtatious smile. I expected her to laugh and flirt back. What I received was like a bucket of cold water thrown in my face. She stood silently and looked at me with icy eyes. Her arms were crossed over her chest. My smile froze on my face. She wasn't here to repair our relationship. She had something on her mind that she needed to get out. Suddenly, I got angry. "Selena, what the fuck? Why are you such a bitch?" I spat these words at her. I could no longer contain my disappointment. I was chasing this bitch about for the better part of a year, and now I've had enough. I won't be her lapdog anymore. "Are you having sex with Wilma, Brian?" she finally asked. Honestly, that was the last thing I expected to hear from her. I grinned and nodded in understanding. This bitch was jealous. "What do you care about?" I asked confidently. She didn't say anything, just stared at me. I leaned over and quietly asked, "Are you jealous?" Her head jerked when I said this. Then she smiled slightly, as if what I said only amused her. "So that's what you think it's all about?" And again, I was greatly surprised. I didn't know what to think. She stood and looked at me like I was a stupid child who didn't understand anything. "Fuck this bitch." "What the fuck do you want from me, Selena?" She suddenly became serious again. "I want you to stop having sex with Wilma, Brian. She is currently going through difficult times in her marriage. What you do to her only makes things worse." Her face softened. For a moment, I saw Selena, whom I had been pursuing for so long. She looked at me as if she hoped I understood what she was talking about. "She actually thinks you're in love with her. She told me that she plans to leave her husband to be with you." I don't know what came over me at that moment. I think I was actually hurt, more than I wanted to admit, that she wasn't jealous. Whatever took over my mind, I didn't care. I know I should have felt bad at that moment, maybe even repent a little, but that was not the case. And what? She looked at me as if I were Lucifer himself. I didn't care anymore. I waved her off with a shrug and walked past. I'm tired of pretending to be this arrogant bitch. It was obvious that any chance I had to screw her was gone, so I no longer needed the nice guy mask. "You know, Brian, you're just a piece of shit," I heard her voice behind me. I opened the car door to get in. Selena slammed it shut and slid between me and the car. Obviously, she wasn't finished yet. "You walk around the hospital with your war stories and arrogant behavior and act like you have the right to ruin people's lives. You stick your little tool into anything and anyone, and you don't care about the people you hurt." Her words were full of venom. If I was still interested in fucking her, I might back off. But now that bitch was in my rearview mirror. "Listen, Selena, what I do is none of your fucking business. I can have sex with whoever I want and whenever I want. If I want to fuck her, I'll do it. In fact, that's what I did. Many times. So why don't you run home to your husband and—" That's all I managed to do before that bitch calmly cocked the gun. She actually hit me. She didn't slap me or push me. She didn't even hit me like a girl. She clenched her fist and punched me from the bottom up so hard that I could see the stars. "Never dare to talk about my husband, your mother." I stood there stunned. I couldn't believe that such a blow could come from such a small body. "You're not half the man my husband is. Don't take my temporary insanity as confirmation that you're even in his league." With these words, she spat at me and left. "Fuck you, bitch," I shouted after her retreating figure. I realized that the pain in my jaw did not go away. How hard did that bitch hit me? She stopped and turned around. "By the way, I received a message with your tool. I must say that after all this talk, I was disappointed. After what I get from my husband every night, I wasn't too impressed with yours." With these words, she left. Crap. Crap. Crap! My jaw hurts. If I hadn't been stunned, I could have killed that bitch. Suddenly, I heard a loud thud. I turned around to see a crazy guy with a baseball bat attacking my pride and joy. "What the fuck, dude?" I shouted to him when he swung again. "Bah! What the hell is the way with you?" I shouted to him. He stopped and looked at me with crazy eyes. His face was flooded with tears. Looking at him, I saw emptiness. What I saw was an empty shell of a man. "Get the hell away from my car!" He didn't even answer me. Instead, he just started beating the crap out of my car again. He was working on my windshield, covering it with a web of cracks. I ran towards him to grab him, but the bastard came at me and started punching me like John Phoenix in Signs. Soon I was lying on the ground, trying not to lose consciousness. "You took her from me, you asshole, and you don't care about her," he exclaimed. And then I realized who it was. It was Wilma's husband. "I heard everything you said to that woman." "How could you do this to me? How could you do this to her?" The last thing I remember is him kicking me in the face. I spent a week in the hospital. The police arrested Wilma's husband. In fact, they had to keep an eye on him because of the possibility of suicide. That bastard kept saying that he had nothing left to live for. While I was lying there, Wilma came to visit me. I thought she was going to wish me well, but that's not what she came for. Her husband told her everything I told Selena. Heartbroken wasn't the right word for who she was. She was simply broken. "Selena told me to stay away from you. She said, 'You're just a predator.' I told her that you love me. I defended you. Now I have no marriage. My children think I'm a whore and my husband is going to trial." I couldn't look at her. Her eyes were full of pain. "For what, Brian? What did I do to you to make you destroy me?" I couldn't answer her. I didn't say anything to her and she left the room. The next day she quit. Selena was transferred to another floor. I felt relieved. I couldn't look at her. She was the only person I broke my rules for. I should have left her, but I continued to pursue it. I still think I had a chance to catch her. I later learned that it was my photograph that ruined those chances. I realized that was a bad idea. I tried to drive a wedge between her and her old man and pulled them closer together. Another funny thing about karma is this. The night I fucked Wilma in the back seat was the first time her husband suspected she was having an affair. He went to her car to get her car seat because he needed it the next day and found the car smelling like sex, a wet spot on the seat, and the baby seat in the trunk. It's funny that I got caught and beaten because I was too selfish to fuck her in my car. When he told Wilma about this, she told him that she loved me and that I would be with her as soon as she divorced. She told him that I was her one true love. Love at first sight. I wasn't fired, but I only lasted a few months. Rumors about Wilma and I spread like wildfire. Nobody wanted to be near me. I was like a pariah. I think Selena was the only one who could tell everyone, but I'm not sure. I saw her sitting at a cafeteria table with a group of nurses from her new floor. While talking to her, they all looked at me with disgust. She didn't even have the decency to pretend she wasn't talking about me. I ended up turning in my resignation 2 weeks in advance and took a job at another hospital. I tried to forget Selena and Wilma, but I couldn't. In real life, Tony and Selena are still happily married. She says she learned a lot about herself during this time. They saw a psychologist, and she learned to be confident without needing to be harassed. She openly admits that she was very shallow and vain, and realized what a prize her Tony was. One day my wife and I were on a picnic with them, and I jokingly asked him, "What is it like to be married to a woman who is too good for you?" Selena said without hesitation, "It was his wife who hit the jackpot." I know some people would like me to burn her in this story, but honestly, she didn't deserve it. They have been married for 16 years. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.